Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back to the Unnamed Cybersecurity Podcast Show. My name's Carl DePrado. We have up from who's in New York, Bob Mitchie out of New Jersey, Chris Burns out of Michigan, and we got Matt Weaver out of PA. And we're going to talk today about some exciting things that are happening in the world of cybersecurity and other stuff.
I don't know if it's exciting.
Here we go.
You know what? It can be. Well, if we start talking about you, Chris, you're always exciting.
I'm the most boring person here. not even.
Hey,
that's real talk right there.
Exactly. Well, hey. Sure. Anyway, today we were going to talk about. I guess we should talk about BitLocker. Bob, what is BitLocker and what is it used for?
So BitLocker's really been the get out of jail free card that we've always been talking about for people with laptops and mobile devices because it's encryption technology that if the bad guys get that computer, they can't see the data. Well, that was up until yesterday.
Yeah. R.I.P. BitLocker. Chris, Chris or Matt? I was sharing the article. I wanted to see if you guys had.
This has been a problem though for a long time. This isn't just like this guy just made it cheaper.
You want to explain the problem first and then say why it's been a problem?
Yeah, so there's something called a TPM or Trusted Platform Module that can be used inside of a computer for security. Basically, you can store cryptographic keys, things like that. The problem is when it's separate from the CPU that runs your entire computer, is that communication is not encrypted. So encryption works with keys. Basically, your hard drive is encrypted with a key, and the TPM, in this case, knows one part of the key, so it has to feed it to the CPU. If you can...
Hey, Chris, I'm going to cut you off for a second on that.
Yeah.
I'm going to cut you off because a lot of people are like, well, what's really going on? And what Carl's asking here is... basically, a YouTuber came up with a $10 device to break the encryption on hard drives, so it takes 45 seconds to get the data.
If you have physical access to the device, you're able to read those keys that go in between the TPM and the CPU because they're unencrypted, and they can grab the keys and they can get into the hard drive. That's basically that's what I was trying to get to that.
Yeah.
There's two different
getting there.
Well, we got to explain. I feel like we got to explain something with like the communication is unencrypted. That's the only reason this works. And this is, again, they have to have physical access to your device. They have to modify the device. And this is a Microsoft has said in the past, this is something that they've known exists, but it's such a low like how often is this really going to happen? Now the TPM can exist on the
if the device is lost or stolen now.
Yeah.
Before we've always said it's a safe harbor because it's been encrypted. We didn't have to worry about it. Yeah,
most criminals aren't going to be able to do this, so that's probably why they're saying it's like a low priority thing. And also, if the TPM is on your CPU, which most laptops it's still in the CPU, this is a non-issue.
Okay.
Because the same attack doesn't work. If you're worried about it, there are two things you can really do. You can force a USB key to be present on your computer on startup for that you have to have present to even boot. That is one way to stop it. Now, don't leave it plugged in.
Which people don't take out of the device, dude.
Right. Yeah, people are never going to do that.
Right. Yeah. The other option is a pin, right? So you can set a pin. For us trying to do patching and stuff like that becomes a problem. Where we need to remote in and the PC needs to be rebooted. You have to put that pin in every time you reboot. So is it an inconvenience? Yes. But if this is something that you're worried about, if you're in some highly confidential place, you have data on a laptop that's really confidential, it's something to consider.
Well, keep that in, let's go back to a couple of weeks ago. And we had our insurance expert, and he had a little discussion about having to patch CVEs within 45 days. And here's some of the challenges going on there. If you have, it's like the Venn diagram. You have your patching on one side, and then you have highly securable data. It is going to require a lot more, management on that.
Yeah. And there's things we can do outside of that, but again, everything's a risk. Everything's a risk, and we have to pick and choose our battles. This isn't a flaw with BitLocker. We're not attacking Microsoft.
No.
This is not a flaw with the way Microsoft does it. This is how the technology works. So any encryption that would do that could fall victim to this. So
Sure. Even the sealed Microsoft Surface, when you watch the guy's video at the very end, they show you exactly where to drill a little hole to actually get access to the same data, which was pretty bizarre.
Yeah. It's like those people who go out and bought the Apple VR headset.
It's just shocking to see.
And do drop tests.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. But again, we can go back to, if you're really worried about it, should you even have data on your laptops? Or should they be remoting into something else and having the data there?
And I think that's the point is where's the data need to live? Do you really need that confidential data to stay on your machine if it's not?
I'll say this. As somebody who's a victim of a college putting my social security number in a file on a laptop that was unencrypted, I will take a BitLocker encrypted laptop and have it lost 100 out of 100 over to something not encrypted and lost.
Well, it's the same thing as having your, the money in the mattress or the money in the bank. The old.
I actually saw one batch of emails go out from a university that had the student ID numbers as the full name instead of their instead of the full name, and at that time the ID numbers were socials.
Yeah, that's the sense.
Mm-hmm. So that was a disaster.
When I was in college, it was.
So anyway,
my ID.
We're gonna pivot here.
Exactly.
Yes.
So,
not smoothly.
I posted something else on. I posted something about insider threats over on LinkedIn last night. Apparently there was a huge.
Talk about insider
threat. Verizon data that.
That's an insider
threat. Dogs right now, or wolves.
That the dogs are the dogs are setting off an alarm that there's an insider threat happening.
There you go. So what Bob was trying to say is Verizon had an insider threat situation to where a person inside of Verizon got access to 63,000 people's information, like employee information, in a file. Yeah, stored in a file, no less. So we can go into why that's a bad idea, but.
They just, I think, the guy just wanted to send out his Christmas cards.
Oh,
a lot of Christmas.
We got to get the list out.
I know I filter my list.
They didn't say what it was for. So anyway, Chris, but that brings up a really good point. Is if somebody has all that kind of data sitting inside, no one really all the people talking about cyber, it's like always outside. What are the bad guys going to do to me? What's going on? And in this case, it was an insider issue. Was it a mistake? Probably.
Yeah. Well, they had 3 months of unfettered access. So Verizon doesn't think it was used outside maliciously, but they still had to notify people because they still fell under breach notification laws.
Yeah.
And if we want to talk about their own data breach report from 2 years ago, they said that 22% of cyber threats were insiders. Some people say it was 31% last year, so we'll say between 20 and 30% of all cyber attacks are insider threats, whether malicious or just accidental.
Sure.
Yeah.
I don't think people really think about that. It could be a salesperson stealing stuff.
A lot of people don't even think about the data that's sitting inside that network. If you give somebody access to stuff, is it really an insider threat if he's using it?
I think kids are insider threats, but that's why I didn't have any.
I'm going to do something we really don't normally do on this podcast. I'm going to give a shameless plug to a service that all four of us provide to companies, which is what we call a cyber risk assessment. And you go, well, that was Verizon, but what data is sitting inside of most businesses that they're not aware of, and who has access to that?
Well,
and that's really what those type of assessments do, is find out that, so you can start to mitigate that.
You show me a company that we can go into that somebody doesn't have, that is free of somebody having access to data they shouldn't have access to, and I'll show you a unicorn.
Yeah. Oh, I agree.
But it's all mitigated risk. It'll never be perfect. But you don't need your front desk person with access to every Verizon employee's information on a laptop,
including their compensation package and their union affiliation, which was stuff that was already there, and social security numbers and federal, all that data there, which there was no reason for that person to have.
Is there really a reason for that to be in a file, period? I mean, we don't know the use of it inside of Verizon, but I mean, honestly, they just said it was a file. It's like really a file with 63,000. By the way, have you guys ever used this? Like, let's say this is a spreadsheet just for fun and games.
Yeah.
Have you ever opened a spreadsheet with 63,000 lines? It is dog slow. Like,
yeah, no, it's very
like.
But it was probably, if you think about how that file was created, it was probably a report that somebody pulled out of a CRM of some form and had exported out into an Excel spreadsheet of some, if I was going to take a guess. Yeah. Oh, I'm sure it took a while to produce that.
Yeah. But I'm trying to think of other things. Like, let's give people examples. Salespeople stealing your customer information as they walk out the door.
Yeah, the customer. Well,
how many companies do you even know that whether that happens or not?
Well,
I'm gonna guess that's pretty low.
I was in a meeting with the FBI and the Department of Commerce about a month and a half ago, and they said about 50% on average of all employees that exit a company will take data with them out when they leave.
So we had actually we had this happen 2 weeks ago. We had a law firm that a partner wasn't a partner, was an associate that gave his notice and he left. And when we start looking at what he was doing prior to him leaving, he created a public share through a file sharing application, loaded it with 140 files, went someplace else and downloaded it, I guess, and then deleted the share. We wound up having to go recover all that data so the managing partners can go through it to see what actually left. So this stuff happens, and
it's interesting.
And the only reason we found it was as the managing partner was reviewing the email account that we restored all the deleted stuff from, he found this file sharing link sitting in there, and the link was no longer active, but we were able to rebuild it from backups, and there it was. All the incriminating evidence is right there, and people don't think there's a trail. There's always a trail.
Yeah.
Well, there was a case a couple years ago. Some congressman or somebody on one of the campaigns had created a way of trying to share messages by giving somebody access to their email account, creating an email and leaving it in the draft field. And so they say, well, the email never got sent. But the other party could go into the account and read the email, and they were able to track that whole thing out. This is back in 2016 or so.
Clever.
That's how I do all my money laundering.
We thought that was one of the many ways.
Have much practice.
That same practice, though, is used by people who cheat and stuff like that. Have you ever seen those stories of people doing that? Where they just put drafts in there and they just give you access to the accounts? It's wild.
Yeah.
There you go.
So that way,
anyway, guys,
let's get back to it.
We need to edit this one.
We're not editing.
We normally don't, but
no, there's no editing. Anyway, guys, next week we are traveling. I know Chris, Carl, and I will be in Phoenix. Matt's going to be someplace a little warmer than Phoenix.
Not Mexico. I'm going to
not Mexico.
Matt's learning where I'm going now that I actually looked at my trip plan and my flights. It's like magic.
Yeah.
I really hope that you're like riding a burro in Mexico and we're talking to you on a phone, because like that would be great.
That would be
honestly
fantastic. I am scheduled.
I think you're in a place where you can rent a burro, Matt. You should be able to go to.
I'm not going to rent a burro. I am renting a 800cc buggy to drive through the jungle with locals. So if I never come back, I'm either having a great time or I'm dead. But either way, hopefully we can connect before that and get some great documentation.
You heard that, folks. We may be looking for a new fourth. But anyway.
Yeah, so you could go fill out applications. Just DM the other three of us, just in case Matt doesn't come back, so that we have somebody next week. Maybe we'll have a guest, because we're gonna see people there. Maybe we'll have a guest. Let's pull a guest together.
We'll have a shot of a guest. Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe we'll have a secret guest.
Super secret.
Yeah, they're gonna replace me, so don't kid yourself.
Okay, everyone. I will see you guys in person next week, and
we'll be three of us will be live in the same room when we do it next week, folks. So Tune in.
You never know what's going to happen there, guys.
Yeah.